Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Vitaly and here I'm sharing my journey of building side project web applications. Currently I'm working on a blogging platform for developers. You can learn more about this idea and how I picked it and why I decided to work on it as my first project on the channel in my previous video. But today I would like to talk about how I spent this week researching the niche, the audience, the competition, coming up with a list of all possible features I could only imagine, and then narrowing it down to a short list of features that will go to the first version, to the MVP, the minimum viable product version. So let's talk about the niche. It's usually recommended to start with a niche and the audience in mind, to learn about them, to understand their problems, and generally get a feeling of the niche itself, its potential, its limitations, and so on. In my case, I have decided to simplify this step for myself because I have picked a niche that I understand quite well, which is software development. And then I went and even narrowed it down more to a sub niche that is blogging for software developers. Basically, my idea is to give a tool for engineers, the developers, who want to write a blog. As somebody who writes a blog, I believe I understand the problems and the challenges there, at least the most common ones, quite well. And I also believe that solving my own problem is quite a good start. I could immediately go into building the product without validating it at all because I already have a customer, and that is myself. But if I really want to make it into a profitable side project, even that is just some pocket money for coffee, I better learn more about other people who might have similar problem and figure out if they would like to pay me for it. So what I decided to do first of all is to write a couple of emails to existing experienced bloggers and ask for their opinion. I wanted to hear their opinion on my idea in general and if they would be willing to switch from their existing setup in particular. For this, I went on GitHub because GitHub has awesome lists of basically everything, and I found a list of engineering blogs. There on this list, I found up to 10 blogs randomly clicking around, and I collected the email addresses from these blogs to contact later. Meanwhile, I prepared the email template. I wanted to make it personal, but it's kind of hard, and instead I went on a compromise. I prepared a template but also customized it a little bit for each blogger depending on what they are using, if it's a WordPress or if it's a Jekyll or something else. I also pre-calculated the CO2 emissions that their blogs make, and I use that information in the emails. You can see the process on the video right now. I decided not to go into details here because I don't think there is anything interesting going on. It's just writing emails, sending them out, and waiting for answers basically. Over the week I received 2 answers out of 12 emails that I sent, and both of them complimented me on the idea but said that they are happy with the solution they have right now and they wouldn't be switching to anything else. Statistically, this is of course a very tiny sample, but this already gives me the idea and the understanding that existing bloggers are probably not my target audience. So I decided to approach it from the opposite side. I went on Hacker News and created a post asking people what keeps them from writing a blog. what I wanted to learn from this is opinions of people who basically are the opposite of those I wrote emails to. People who never wrote blog or hesitated or maybe started and stopped and so on. And it was quite an interesting insight as well, because I learned that a lot of people have quite different reasons, obviously, but they all boil down to things like imposter syndrome, when people don't feel like they're expert in their field. They don't feel like they can write something that can benefit others, or maybe that they simply don't have any ideas for writing a blog. What was also an interesting insight is that a lot of people don't have or lose motivation because they believe their blogs will never appear in top search results on Google. They think, and maybe rightfully so, that the search results are rigged, that they only show those blogs or websites where a lot of money and time was spent on search engine optimization and so on, and they don't believe that their blog will get enough exposure. So they don't want to just waste time writing and not having anyone reading their blog. After this feedback, I created a couple of other posts on Reddit programming and on Hacker News again, but asking more specifically what people expect from blogging software, what problems they have, and so on. But unfortunately, those didn't get any engagements at all. And at this point, I was quite disappointed not being able to find a potential customer, even one person, not being able to talk one-on-one, ask questions, and so on. And I didn't know what to do else. How do I find my customers? Where do they hang out? In the beginning, I was sure that I know who they are. I was sure that it's developers who want to write blogs. But at this point, I realized I don't really know how to find them, how to find this very specific sub-niche that is not people who already have blogs, and that is not people who are afraid running blogs, but people who want to have blogs, don't have them yet, and are looking for a platform or a software that will satisfy their needs. And that's when I decided to switch topics a little bit and research the competition, which turned out to be a great idea, because what I found is a couple of posts on Hacker News from similar software before, and a lot of comments on each of them. People really engaged with the product, giving great feedback, giving their ideas on what makes a good minimalist blogging platform, what they expect from it, what their problems are, and so on. So I kind of killed two birds with one stone there. I found the competition, and I also found what I was looking for. I found a potential customer base that is so interested in the topic that they were not hesitating to engage with it in comments and give their feedback and their ideas. I learned from those comments on Hacker News quite a lot about features that my platform should have, and to be honest, there were a lot of ideas that I initially didn't even think of. So I spent a couple of next hours scrolling through the comments on each post on Hacker News, compiling a list of competitors, compiling a list of features, ideas, feedbacks, and so on. In the end, I had a lot of my questions answered without ever even having a chance to engage with a specific person. So this turned out to be a real gold mine for me, and I realized a couple of important things. First of all, something I didn't think of before, and something that appears to be quite important to a lot of users, is having some kind of blog verse or a simple catalog or a web rings, an idea from the past, to increase the discoverability of their blogs. And it makes sense. As I mentioned before, a lot of people are afraid starting their own blog because they're afraid that they will never be found in Google. And providing such functionality can help with discoverability of their blogs, of their content. It's of course something that Medium does, and it's something I didn't plan of doing. And I'm still not sure about it, but it is important to know that there is a demand for it, that people like this idea. Then I also discovered a couple of interesting things like micropub, and apparently that's a protocol that allows publishing from various applications, mobile or desktop, directly to websites. Of course, RSS, I had it in mind, but I still decided to put it here, and it was mentioned quite often in the comments there. Also, things like exporting not only the data in Markdown format, for example, but exporting the whole blog in HTML with styles, so that people can just take that HTML and host it somewhere in case they decide to leave the platform. I think it's a pretty cool idea. Custom domains, analytics, RSS, I'm mentioning it twice for some reason. Another very nice idea is microblogging. Basically, it's no different than normal blogging, but there is no need for a title because it's usually just some thought and not a long blog post. Dark mode and feed of maybe blogs that you are subscribed to or something similar. I haven't decided yet. Maybe it's a feed of new posts on the whole platform. We'll see. And then I wasn't really sure about embedding media because that will definitely slow down page loading times. But on the other hand, even though the blogging platform I'm planning is very minimalistic, I think it is really hard nowadays to write engaging content without any media, be it some diagrams or some screenshots or something like that. So I think it will definitely be something that I will implement, but we will see how I go about it. Then also there were suggestions which I don't know if I will do, definitely not in the MVP version, but exporting not to a JSON or a Markdown, but already exporting in existing formats for statically generated websites like Hugo or Jekyll and so on. Another idea that I also didn't think about before checking those comments is a lot of people are concerned about their blog being alive forever. And this is quite a tricky idea and a tricky functionality to implement even. By that they really mean having it run forever, and apparently archive.org is not enough in their opinion. And I did see a couple of competitors having this. It's hard for me to imagine doing this on my platform, but still I decided to note this idea down and look into it later. Finally, something that I came up with myself, which is multiple identities or multiple blogs on one account. And I think this is important for people who hesitate writing under their real name, or for people who want to explore other formats or are afraid that they will appear less smart than they are or something similar. So giving them a chance to run an anonymous blog alongside with their main blog, with their name, is, I think, idea worth exploring. But that's definitely not something that will go to MVP, and you can already see the MVP section on the right. I was hesitant on what should go there. I wasn't sure, but then I realized that definitely things that make my blogging platform different from others, they definitely should go into MVP, even if not in the full extent. Still, the three qualities should hold, and that is minimalism, basic text pages that load very fast. Maybe the definition of very fast will be different in the beginning, but still. And that is also exporting functionality, maybe limited, maybe only to Markdown or only to JSON, but it has to be there. And finally, it has to run on a green provider from the very beginning. Other things that I decided to add here, and none of them are really features, some of them are rather ideas or reminders or important decisions. For example, the first version will only have text, no media. That is a limitation, but I think that will allow me to focus on making it super fast. It's also great typography. I think if we only have text, then this text has to look gorgeous on the screen, and it has to read well on big screens, on little screens, on mobile, and so on. It's also code highlighting, because this platform is aimed at developers mainly, and because I'm going text only in the MVP version, it makes sense to give some capabilities to blog about development, and the code highlighting is one of them. Finally, I have decided not to include any JavaScripts, at least in the front end, in the reading part for readers, and not giving any commenting functionality. And this is rather a radical one, but after some thinking, I don't think I will be able to do a proper commenting functionality with spam filters, with bot detection, and so on. And at the same time, I don't want to include third-party services like Discuss and similar, because they will affect the page loading speeds a lot. From my experience, I know that there are a lot of comments usually, and a lot of engagements on sites like Reddit or Hacker News or dev.to and similar. So I believe that writing a blog post and posting it to those social networks is already a good way to get some engagement. In summary, during this week I have gained quite a lot of insights. I learned about the niche, about the audience, about potential customers, what they think, what their problems and needs are, and what I should focus on and what I should let go. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to validate this idea in the way I imagined in the beginning. I didn't find a user who would be willing to give me money right now for a non-existing product and wait for me to build it. Typically that would mean that the product has a very strong potential, and that would be quite a good indicator and motivator to start working on it. On the other hand, It's not a unique idea. It has some special features or special qualities that other competitors don't have. But in its sense, as a blogging platform, it's not a unique idea. And looking at other competitors, seeing them having some success, having some customers, well, it is a good enough indicator for me that I can continue with it. In the very worst case scenario, I will have gained the knowledge of researching, of building the product, of launching it, doing the marketing and so on, and I'll be the only one using it, but that will be a learning worth the journey. But still, I am not that pessimistic about it. Seeing those comments on Hacker News and how people are engaging with other similar products being launched there, I see hope. I see that there is a potential user base, that there is customer base, and I believe if I deliver a good product, I will have my customers. So during the next week, I am planning to buy a domain name, build a landing page describing the product and its main qualities and why it's better than the competition, posting this landing page on various websites, getting the feeling of the first feedback and what people really think about this specific product that I am building, not about the competition that I saw before. And finally, I'll be sketching the first templates, the first ideas about the product itself. And most importantly, if you have some feedback, if you have ideas or recommendations about what I'm doing here, what I have done or I haven't done during this week, please let me know in the comments below, and I will definitely take time into looking into it, thinking about it, and probably taking some action. Thank you. I hope you learned something new today. And if my journey looks interesting to you, don't forget to subscribe, click the bell button to get informed about the next videos. And I see you next Sunday.